presents the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg, and your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty. Welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast!
Buenos dias, señores y señoritas, and welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty, here to review AAA Noche de los Grandes. And yes, that was the whitest possible way to say it, because this was the whitest AAA show you could possibly have watched. And here to do the whitest review is your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty, who is not here alone, because with me by my side, as always, the man of the hour, the man with the power too sweet to be sour. He is the left butt cheek to my right butt cheek, because sometimes this show is straight up ass. Skylar Greenberg, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I resent that. I think we're a quality show
No,
here.
we are.
So you ain't talking ass about us, okay?
Well, the sad thing is, Skylar, is that ass is like the standard now. And everyone has gone so far below the bar of ass that ass is now terrific. So I think we're ahead of the game here. But that's what 2026 professional wrestling has become. You felt it, Sky. I felt it. The vibes have never been worse in terms of professional wrestling. Would you not agree?
At the very least in the American scene, because
True.
WWE and AEW especially have really brought our feelings on wrestling down to the point where we weren't even sure if we were going to review the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, I just skipped Clash in Italy because I just didn't care. But one of the things that we did, and we decided to do at the beginning of this year when things were starting to look dismal but weren't at this point, was we were going to do the Court-Martail Podcast cross-company check-in. And we were going to see how everybody else is doing, but we're not necessarily ready to detach yet. So we're still within the TKO bubble. We're just going to our little redheaded stepchild from the South, The Undertaker's promotion. As he's not a little redhead, he was a gigantic redhead, but you get what I mean. As it is the AAA show that we basically got roped into reviewing based on how well the main event was regarded by the community. Is there anything further you want to say before we get into the review overall and our overall thoughts behind it?
Well, here's the thing, is that for the people who don't know, allow me to illuminate how this thing happened.
Yes, please illuminate for all of us.
Essentially what happened was Saturday, me, Sean, and Joshua had no intention of watching any wrestling at all. In fact, we were busy doing our weekend stuff.
True.
And then I got pinged by a friend who got pinged by a friend who got pinged by a friend. That's legitimately how it happened. And said, dude, you need to watch this. And I'm like, okay. So he sends me a YouTube link, and it's a YouTube link for a AAA show that's happening this weekend that I have been seeing on the promotions for WWE. And people were telling me, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. So I watched it. And after I watched it, I'm like, okay, Joshua, Sean, we all need to watch this.
And I wasn't going to, but because Skylar, as he so eloquently put it, pinged us, which thankfully I was on prep beforehand, so, nothing was transferred over. But in any case, I decided this is what a better opportunity to kind of soft launch our cross-promotion check-in. So I did something that I have not done with wrestling in a long time, Skylar. I watched a full show at regular speed. I watched the entirety of this show, start to finish, the whole 2 hours and 15 minutes, skipping only the middle, silent breaks where they were plugging their merch, which was a length of time, but it wasn't even that bad because I watched it not that night, but the day afterwards, of course, or a couple days afterwards. But we felt that this was a good place to review it. And your overall thoughts on the show on May 30th, 2026, the 4-match card, Skylar.
Thank you, Base Taker.
Yes, with the question mark at the end of it, I agree.
Because here's the thing, is that as much as people are giving Undertaker credit for this show, this show, in many ways, shows that the problems that professional wrestling has in America is also in Mexico. Like, it's the entirety of the professional wrestling
Oh yeah.
ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
And we're not going to escape all the trappings. Having said that, damn it, they all tried their hardest. All the workers really did try their hardest, and they did what was end up being a quality show. Is it going to be a show that's remembered forever? No. But is it definitely going to be a highlight that they're going to continue pushing? Absolutely, especially for one particular match that we'll get to when we review this show.
True. I mean, I really have very little to add to that. I went in with no expectations, and I think that really helped. Because part of why I think when it came to WWE, I took it so personally for so long is that I had such an emotional attachment and investment and an expectation, especially when those expectations were reignited after Vince left and Triple H took over and then TKO took over, and then it really sank in what that meant. And it was a whole different pile of suck. I'm not advocating for either of them, just to make it clear. But I ended up with no expectations coming into the show and having a blast watching it. And I had fun. I mean, I left it to where, my last dabble into Lucha proper was Lucha Underground. So that was the last I remember, which actually did come in handy for understanding what culero means. Because I did remember quite a few of the chants and what they stood for. But that brings us to the first part of this show. The crowd on this night was white hot, except for one match, but it was so helpful to the overall story that they tried to tell on the night for everything they got going.
Right. Again, we're not going to properly review Clash in Italy, but I will say from the bits I saw from that show and also this show, and again, shows in France, all the shows in the UK, all the shows in Germany, all the others, the international crowds are saving professional wrestling as best as they can because our American crowds just do not have this energy or this passion.
Well, because every one of them kind of feels the same way that we do. They're so emotionally invested in who's writing and who's, I think it's so marky that they can't just relax and have a good time, and I think it's because they're so attached to it because it's like their home stuff. But in any case, I will have to say, it starts with our Southern cousin. Play-by-play Corey Graves runs down the card, who I thought did a great job all night. I really enjoyed 2/3 of the commentary team on this night. And
yes, but I will say Corey Graves had to do a lot of certain lines that you can tell were like, this is exciting, this is great, this is wonderful. Thanks, Tony Schiavone.
Well, he wasn't the only one that was doing that, to be fair.
Right, and at least he had the energy and excitement, unlike Tony Schiavone, who's just doing it canned.
Well, canned and bored, and he has nothing else to contribute. At least Corey Graves is calling the match, and also they knew that this was going to garner a lot of new eyes, I'm sure. So the way that they played this, I think, was wonderful for that, in that regard. I was shocked to see Omos with Vikingo, but that kind of leads me to the first part of this. The rundown that they did to start the show before any of the matchups happened to define who the baby faces were, who the heels were, a tiny overview of why they're fighting, but nothing huge, but just that little recap was so important to the whole framework of the night. I really enjoyed how the show began, as it just got everybody up to speed of this is what's going on, here's the people they like, here's the people they don't like, and you wouldn't get that kind of energy with, an American crowd right now, because, people are booing Cody no matter what. Does not matter what they do. But Rey Mysterio on commentary, look,
hold on. Can we address the other person?
Yeah, go ahead. It's John O'Clock, motherfucker. Get in there.
It's John O'Clock, and it's JB fucking L Bradshaw Layfield bullshit. Listen, JBL is one of the best / worst commentators in the history of commentating because he just brings that JBL-ness. I can't explain it other than it's JBL.
I thought that it was hysterically ironic that JBL of all people is going to be the one who's on color commentary for this, which I thought was hysterical. But I felt bad for John because I felt John had to do a lot of like saving dead air because Rey Mysterio was god awful. I love Rey, the athlete. He's one of my favorites. He has some level of promo capability, but it's minimal, you know, but stay in your lane, Rey. Please do not do that again. Cause it was rough.
Rey Mysterio has always been a great wrestler and a meh promo at best. Whenever he's not talking about himself or his opponent, he cannot get anything over on the microphone, which is fine. Again, we're not saying that Rey Mysterio is a terrible person or a terrible wrestler or whatever.
I love Rey.
I will say I'm a little confused why he's the AAA general manager. I don't get it.
Well, this was a very strange dynamic because you could tell that they were trying to sell some level of tension between Rey Mysterio and JBL because JBL like wanted to be the general manager of AAA or whatever it is, and it was given to Rey, and they played into that a little bit, but not a lot. But considering their history, because like JBL quit after losing to Rey, you know, it's like I understand what they were trying to do, but Rey just does not have that gift of gab enough, and I really do feel like both Corey and JBL suffered because Rey left them hanging so many times. And they had to just like, I gotta say something. Somebody's gotta say something. I was like, I felt so bad for them. It's, you know, but they tried. They tried with what they could do. And somebody, whoever was the audio guy on this night, whether it was Lee Fitting or one of Lee Fitting's stooges, he was having himself a rough ass night. Because for the first like 4 minutes of Rey Mysterio talking over everybody, including the announcers, introducing the two people who we're about to talk about, Rey Mysterio's voice was like redlining while everyone else was like regular, but they turned way the fuck up. And it took a long time for them to actually regulate it back to like reasonable levels. And it was not the only audio issue on the night.
Yeah, I think people forget that like Mexican Lee Fittings, whoever that is probably just an intern that doesn't know any better.
I mean, what's interesting is that they still said that Lee Fitting was the executive producer on that. So I don't know whether he just gets the credit slapped on it because he is the executive producer of the whole shindig and it's just his cronies doing it. I'm not sure. But we start out with the first matchup, which is for the Cruiserweight Championship. Phoenix, who they iterate has a chip on his shoulder because Penta, his brother, is the Intercontinental Champion, against the Laredo Kid, who has had 500 plus days as Cruiserweight Champion, and people do not like the Laredo Kid, and it was pretty obvious in this match because he was quite aggressive as to why they don't like him. But what did you think of this matchup, Skylar?
This was the perfect opening match for this show because you have two very athletic high flyers, although I will note Laredo Kid did work a little bit differently for reasons we'll go into. But these are both quality guys who had a good opening match to start the show.
Yeah, I loved this match. I thought this was really fun. It had a good pace. You know, it had lucha, but it wasn't, you know, it's interesting because this was definitely like the most lucha of all the lucha matches that we had on this night. And it still felt well-paced and well-regulated. Unlike all of the spot fests that you see in AEW, this still felt like it had pacing to it, but it still held true to a lot of the moves and the style and the selling and or lack thereof, depending on how you choose to view it. But I really liked this. Rey Mysterio introduces himself and there's dead silence. And so JBL has to pick up with his shtick. He was looking for a pass from an already sacked quarterback. And this is that I started very early on that I started to feel bad for John. And as they're announcing Rey Fenix, Rey Mysterio is just talking over the announcer, you know, not knowing to lay out because he's just inexperienced because it's not his wheelhouse. Has he ever done commentary before, Skylar? Can you recall?
I'm sure he's done like a guest commentary spot, but like he's not a regular commentator. Like
it showed.
He just does not do it.
It showed.
Can I say something right now that I just want to gave me a laugh?
Please do.
This referee, I don't know who he is, but he is fat, and the suspenders were killing me.
Editor, you know what to do.
He's fat!
Yeah, I called him Mexican Patton Oswalt. Cause
Oh my god, you're so right.
And I gotta tell you, it was really distracting, the whole matchup. I'm like, this fucking, you can't bring this guy out here in these red ass suspenders. Like, you can't do that.
Like, it's one thing if he's fat. Like, I understand it. Like, referees don't always have to be in the best shape, even though WWE makes them in. But the suspenders really helped accentuate the dad bod.
Now, you know what is funny is that I couldn't take my eyes off him, and I'm sure they were saying something in Spanish I didn't know, but at that moment, it sounded like they were chanting Ronald's heavy, like they were referring to this fat-ass referee, and I have no idea if that's his name or not. I think it was something in Spanish that was some heel thing for Laredo Kid. But yes, I have to agree with you, Skylar. It was I couldn't take my eyes off him half the time. Cause he's just, and it showed like he was struggling. At least Tim White and Nick Patrick had some hustle to them. This dude was hobbling and waddling around to get to pins. And we saw it in the tag match too. But
right, I know. It's just like, what the hell is Mexican Paul Heyman doing as a referee?
Yeah, I know. Well, as Laredo Kid comes down to the ring before the match even starts, I have to say, do you remember, Sky? Way back in the 201 previous episodes of the Court-Martail podcast, remember how much I hated when a wrestler was coming down to the ring and they would cut to B-roll right in the middle of their entrance?
Yes.
I don't mind that in the picture-in-picture format, because I thought that this actually worked. You get to see what happened with the previous weeks of television that they were doing that led up to this matchup and why they were upset and all of that, while still getting to see Laredo Kid interact with the fans, which was valuable, I thought. And it helped tell the story. And it was the first part of the night that made me suspect that just maybe The Undertaker might be watching a little bit of our EFED universe, which includes TAW and CIW, because this is the first of many things I felt were relatively stolen from recent formats of both TAW and CIW of late. But
well, the other thing too is that like this AAA is trying to look for a TV deal with some American like TV thing, but I know they have a deal with Fox Sports and it's on the Fox like Spanish affiliate channels. And Fox does a lot of the same thing with that kind of like stuff of replays in the middle of things while also showing live footage. You see it a lot in the NFL, right? And how they do their picture-in-pictures.
Well, and they used to do it more when Lee Fitting first took over in WWE, but they hardly do it now. You hardly ever see them do it like that. You know, but I thought it was refreshing because it was nice to get the prior context without losing the current context of what's going on. So I appreciated that. These kicks that they were giving to each other were pretty snug. As I did like the running rope punt by Phoenix. This is where Patton Oswalt got really distracting.
It was.
But then JBL said something that was really funny. As these guys are just, because it was a hot start because it's Lucha. So, again, we're not going to go, did we get a collar and elbow tie-up? It's Lucha. It's AAA. It's that, you're not looking for that here. At least I'm not. But it was at this moment when JBL said, you know what's great? No feeling out process. They're just beating the hell out of each other. Because, like, JBL, to me, I thought was more Tony Schiavone than anyone else on that commentary table.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, that's a good call, Skylar. As the turnbuckle well, the turnbuckle pad is off, and that would come in handy later. I did like the turnbuckle cloverleaf in theory, but they did show that it needed some significant coordination to make happen.
Yeah, that was a little complicated, but hey, like, thanks for trying.
Hey, thanks for trying. I like the idea. You know, I just wish that maybe they had shot it from a different angle so he didn't see Phoenix put his legs into position for Laredo Kid to do it. But then we get the curb stomp with the arm stretch, and this is where I thought
that one spot was like, okay, Laredo Kid is working very, very stiff and very, very violent. Like, he's getting across that he's not a nice person.
Yeah, I thought that this was maybe the most... It sounded like this was more heelish than he'd ever been, and you could tell that he was really hyping up the aggression, and I do really like that about Lucha because you can't rely on facial expressions to get that across. Body language matters so much more, you know, in Lucha done right, that is, and I really appreciated that from Laredo Kid, as you know, then. Phoenix does this splash on the outside, and the elevation that he got, I forgot how high that dude can jump. But it was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, Rey Fenix and Penta, they're having a late stage career renaissance, or maybe they're just going back to what they're doing that made them both so great.
I think that they're just in an element where their presentation is actually suiting their strengths. You know, as you know, how many times have we said it, Skylar? Presentation is key. You know, and I think Penta's being presented in the main roster better, probably the best way he's gonna be, you know, for the time being at least. And as for Phoenix, I think having him be kind of shadowed by his brother, but being successful in Mexico, I think that works for him, you know, and him, you know, ultimately walking away with this belt and getting the validation. You know, they do the frog splash to the armbar, but Laredo finds the bottom rope. Flips page. The 1-2 that they did that led to the jumping crucifix DDT that Phoenix flipped out of, that got to Ray's reverse 619, was pretty intense. I mean, they were doing, like you said, Skylar, they were putting in a lot of effort here tonight, and it showed.
The way that Rey Fenix avoided that DDT was just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how, like, his neck was able to, like, withstand the DDT attempts into the flip that he did.
Now, I will admit here, I am a gigantic hypocrite because I would totally critique or be, like, annoyed with Ricochet for doing the same spot, but it looks so much better coming from Phoenix. I don't know why, like, Phoenix should be the only one who's able to do that anywhere, because he made it look so crisp, and it got a pop. I mean, the crowd responded to that, and the same thing with Laredo Kid's Destroyer DDT afterwards, which was the first time I've ever seen that. I love that move. That was cool.
It was an amazing move.
Yeah.
That just looked devastating. And that should have been the finish, and he still was able to get the arm up. And not even like he got the arm up because of effort. Like, it was just on instinct alone that Phoenix got the arm up.
Well, and I will say this too, because I normally would agree that this probably went like 4 or 5 minutes longer than it needed to. However, each false finish that they did had a reason for it being in the match based on previous interactions between those two, and the commentary team and the production team did a great job of making sure that we knew that. And I really appreciated that all night. It felt like there was reason for the matches going as long as they did, and the people kicking out, and they've experienced this before from the last time they matched, or 2 times ago, or, you know, they made the show and made each match feel like it was part of a greater saga, so you could forgive it going as long as it did, because it had meaning behind it. And all I've ever asked for is justification. But
And what would it take but a lucha company to do it?
I know.
Not an American company, but a lucha company.
From The Undertaker? As if, like, okay, I'm game. Yeah, but man, Mysterio is out of his wheelhouse on commentary. This is not the last time you will hear this from me. Laredo Kid goes for a low blow, but it's caught by Phoenix because the low blow is how Laredo retained from a previous matchup, which they said. Phoenix tried the Mexican Muscle Buster, which was countered into an inside cradle, which then he finally does hit the Mexican Muscle Buster, and it's still just a 2. Then there's the turnbuckle shot, which was cool. And then, you know, they did the shot, the camera shot, not the actual hitting of the turnbuckle, but the shot they did where they actually, like, moved the camera. They're showing the wrestlers, but the cameraman just, like, moves to his right, and all of a sudden the exposed turnbuckle comes in the frame. Really like that. And then the referee sees it, our Mexican Patton Oswalt, as he then sees it, and then he goes to do something about it, and he just kind of looks at it and, like, pats it. He doesn't find the turnbuckle pad, and then he just walks away from it to let the guys do the spot, which I thought was kind of funny. I was like, okay, it was enough.
That was the most, like, drunk Mexican dad gives up on project they don't want to do.
Yeah. That was fun. You know what? That's drunk dad. Drunk dad does that. That is not respective of any particular one or another, but it's like, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow kind of problem. He was probably like, you know what? I'm back here for match 3. I'll just take care of it then. You know, he already knew he had another match to do.
No. What it was is that he'll let the younger referee worry about it in the next match. Like the total dad.
That's right. Let that kid pay his dues. Yeah. Well, when that happened, Laredo got a low blow, got a frog splash, which was a 2 count. Then the small armbands are off, Skylar. That's how you know it's serious.
Is that the Mexican version of pulling the straps down?
I guess. No, because we got the Mexican version of pulling the straps down twice in the main event. Okay,
we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, but Laredo charged into the exposed turnbuckle and Phoenix dodged it, and he got to hit another Mexican Muscle Buster and finally wins it for Phoenix. And what I wrote at the end was, it's Lucha, so it's getting a pass, but at least there was a reason for each extra false finish from previous matches, which was well outlined by commentary, and I actually really liked this and did not expect to. Well done, Phoenix, and well done, Laredo Kid, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen Laredo Kid, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I like what I see.
Again, this is the thing about why it's beneficial for WWE to even buy AAA, because when they debuted Rey Fenix, it wasn't that he struggled, but he had a place that was in SmackDown's roster when he first debuted that just was not very well received. And he needed somewhere else to go that he could be successful, and that place turns out to be AAA.
Yeah, he just wasn't going to break out of the pack there. And that's no knock on Phoenix. It's just bad environment is a bad environment. And so I'm happy for Phoenix, because I do think that this is much more his speed. And I would actually be interested to see more Phoenix matches down the road if they have some level of acclaim to them. You know, if we catch wind that Phoenix is in a great cruiserweight match down the line at Triple Mania or something, which we will get to after the next match about Triple Mania. But I'm open to see what both Phoenix and Laredo Kid are doing. I imagine they're going to have a rematch for some sort of clause here, so who knows? I'm well done, gentlemen.
But that's the thing, though. This is why it's important for WWE to buy companies like AAA and TNA so they can recycle their talent or move them around, you know, like a regional territory would.
Well, but the flip side of that is that they also have to give them the respect and give them their space to thrive. You know, unfortunately, TNA, no matter what they do, I think that one is just going to be what TNA's going to be TNA. TNA's always going to TNA, baby. But
I mean, yeah, but
you can't deny it. It's like they are the New York Jets of wrestling. No matter what they do, they will always just trip over themselves.
No, if anything, they're the Cleveland Browns of the NFL. Whenever they find good talent, they trade it away.
Trade it away. That's right. Well, congratulations, Rams, on winning the Super Bowl. But in any case,
fuck you.
Hey, I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I'm
As a
wrong.
49ers fan, the fact that the Rams not only traded for Myles Garrett, but now the rumors are saying that Aaron Donald potentially is going to come out of retirement because he wants to play with Myles Garrett.
Well, yeah, because they're going all in on this. They're doing a win now kind of. I mean, they are going as win now as they did the last time when they got Stafford to begin with.
So again, like as a 49ers fan and a divisional rival, I'm just like, fuck, it was supposed to be our chance next year, and now we're fucked with the defending Super Bowl champion and the rising champion. We don't got a chance.
Well, as a team whose ship is rapidly sinking, as a Bucks fan, I would just like to point out that the Bucks are the ones who created this successful template that the Rams are currently revisiting for the second time after they copied us the first time to do this. But I just want to say that we did it first. We hit it first. Call us Ray J in Ray J Stadium where we won the championship. Tampa Brady was traded to the Toms. You're welcome. Let's move on to the Latin American Championship. It is Dr. Wagner Jr. versus Vikingo. And Skylar, before I let you do this and tell me your thoughts, I have to steal your gimmick. Real quick.
Go ahead.
On this episode of... Oh, did it reconnect? Oh, it didn't play. I'm sad. Hold on. Why did it not play? I am very sad. This was supposed to be Google Translate. I had the Spanish version of what the fuck is Vikingo wearing, but it decided it didn't want to play for me, so I'm now very sad, and my multicultural moment has been ruined. I hope you're happy, Vikingo.
Okay, anyway, you were saying?
This is sad. I'm very disappointed. I'm sad that bit didn't just crashed into a wall. Anywho, Vikingo, first it was Big Van Vader, now it's Little VW Beetle Vikingo. As Vikingo is the premature baby of Mantar and the Shockmaster. And last but certainly not least, if the Inuit baby from Ice Age became a wrestler, it is Vikingo. As
Vikingo getting ready for Pride.
Well, what
like who wears a dazzling stormtrooper helmet with horns on it? I just want to know, like, someone at a Pride event. That's who.
The Shock. That's why I said it's Mantar and the Shockmaster. It was glistening. That's why it was so.
Did Vikingo get ready for a D&D play night and decide he wanted to wear a pelt of a wolf?
Yes,
along with like.
He's the only one in the group that decided to dress up, and just everyone else is just mad judging him, and just like, well, in any case.
I mean, and then meanwhile, on the other side, we have Dr. Wagner Jr. wearing the biggest shoulders that he possibly could find, looking like he has the same shoulders as the Saiyan warriors from Dragon Ball Z, though we're so big.
Well, this was funny because all of Wagner's ribbons tied up in the ropes, and for the first, 2.5 minutes of this matchup, they could not get those ribbons off of the ropes. They tried so hard, and you just saw hands reaching from out of frame, trying to pull these ribbons down as they're fighting. It was great.
Especially when the referee grabs the belt from Dr. Wagner Jr. and holds up the belt with a piece of string stuck to the belt.
Oh, it was so good. But here's what I have to say about this overall. This is not a compliment, Skylar. As much as the ego-minded people might think it is, this was a Saturday Night Hype match. Which means it was a SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 match where after a little while, somebody ran in and showed up a little bit and got involved and then got to the outside and just started hovering. And then the other person's guy came in and started hovering around. And then the spots were huge and reckless and looked like they hurt. And then an outside interference that probably shouldn't have been legal happened. And it was just chaos start to finish, and it ended the match, and that was that. And it just felt like an E-Fed TV match.
Sean, I will both compliment and hurt you in the same sentence. This felt like the Mexican version of your match versus Jack 6 from a year or two ago.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, though. That's the problem. It's like, it's one thing when it's like me doing everything I can with the video game means that I have to make a match entertaining, you know, top to bottom. But that's exactly what I'm talking about, Skylar. It felt like a CIW television matchup. And it shouldn't for like a major show on a actual wrestling program. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, here's the thing, though, is that this AAA Noche de los Grandes is actually a television special. This is basically their version of Saturday night's main event. So I don't know what you can or can't say about it in one way or another about what you like.
Okay, all right. Well, this is okay. To be fair, I thought this was like one of their major shows.
No. This is a TV special that basically was their version of Saturday night's main event.
Oh, well then it becomes a full compliment. Thank you for stealing my material, Undertaker. I take back everything I said about it being a problem. And now I'm offended at what you said, Skylar. How dare you say that that's a knock against... No, go on. Go ahead.
But that's the thing, though, is that, like, this match, everything that you know about Vikingo, he does the same match in almost every single way. There are a couple spots that I like, and we'll get to those in a second. But if you've seen one Vikingo match, you've seen all the Vikingo matches.
Well, here's the problem I had with this. I like Dr. Wagner Jr. Senior Jr. The original Junior. Yes, the second generation superstar here. It's not that Wagner Jr.'s bad, but I just don't think he's got his father's charisma in terms of body language. And as far as Vikingo goes, this dude reminds me of Roosh in the fact that I think he's just being reckless as fuck because he's making up for his Napoleon syndrome. And I thought that a lot of these spots, I mean, we remember, Sky, when it was in the news when Ludwig Kaiser got mad as fuck at Vikingo because Vikingo was stomping his neck. You know, and I kind of felt that. I mean, when they did the double stomp from the top rope all the way to the outside, CIW level spot, by the way. You know, it's just, they did the drop kick to the knee where Wagner's head went into the steps. I thought that was nice as well. But it just, why would Dr. Wagner Jr. ever agree to take that double stomp from the top to the floor? That just looks so dangerous.
It is, but again, this is one of those situations where Vikingo has been, I guess, what's the word I can say? Crowned as like the star of Mexican luchadors or something like that. I don't know if Wagner Jr. felt the pressure of having to work with Vikingo in that way. I'm not sure how to explain it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've never seen it. I've never seen the appeal in the guy. And to me, it just seems like he's out there hurting people, you know, and maybe...
Well, here's the thing, Sean, is that, like, the appeal of Vikingo was that 5 or 6 years ago when Kenny Omega came to Mexico and took the AAA belt, he basically wrestled Vikingo a bunch of times, and that's where it gets it from, is Dave Meltzer and the internet smarks loved the guy because he could do flips.
Yeah, I can't wait for the day when it's fully revealed and it can be fully exposed just how much damage Dave Meltzer has contributed to the wrestling business, because I truly believe that he is not persona non grata, but he is among the top tier of people responsible for wrestling being in the shape it's in. I would say almost to the level of Vince Russo, if not more. But we'll get to that another time.
Well, Meltzer is the biggest, like, quote-unquote journalist in wrestling. So when his opinion carried weight, that's when it mattered. The problem is that his opinion changed for the worst.
Well, and I also think that it's changed because he's got his finger in the cookie jar in one company, and he has tried his best not to reveal that as such, but it's all going to come out sooner or later. It's all going to come out just how much Dave Meltzer's hand has truly been in the wrestling business. And as far as actually somebody taking his advice, or just how much he's actually been involved in terms of production there. But it'll all come out at some point. But this
I mean,
is
it's
not
already
about.
come out in like bits and pieces when like he's doing a live version of The Observer and Tony Khan calls him for something.
Yeah, it's all going to be exposed. At some point, it's all going to be exposed just how involved Dave Meltzer really has been to the demise of the professional wrestling business. But in any case, this is what I mean about Vikingo, though. There was that baseball slide kick that just looked reckless. And, you know, there was this Samoan drop / crucifix driver that got both men and looked like it didn't really... It looked like it hurt both guys and didn't do anything at the same time.
I mean, the thing is that it looks really, really cool, but it's also one of those moves that's like, oh, that's not fun to take.
And it's also like... It's one that actually, I think, loses impact with its speed. Because I think the slower it's done, the better it processes with the people.
Right. But then here's the best part, though, is here comes the people coming down to the ring like Cause.
Yeah, here comes Omos. And here in this match between the Riddler and Aquaman, holy shit, I just realized how parallel this is. Oh my god. I literally just had this matchup. Skylar, I just had this matchup on Saturday Night Hype, which this did not turn into a promo, but I literally just had this match. Ganondorf came down just like this. Although Aquaman won, not the Riddler, but I had a different outcome. But it is funny now that we're breaking it down here, and he ankles Wagner. Then the Aztec Giant, aka Batman, and Omos start fighting, and then there's this planted child. Who is?
Can I just say something? Like Omos's like shirt looks like it was about to pop any second.
Yeah, it did.
Just the buttons were fighting for its life.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not surprised that Omos is down here in Undertaker's promotion. Undertaker loves that dude. So, no surprise that he's down here, but good. I'm glad he's doing something. You know, and
yeah, but then as you were saying, like the planted kid.
This kid cracked me up all night. He was in the face of people all night. He had his phone talking like wicked smack to Omos. And then steel chairs from the non-legal men having a fight on the outside. And then here's Mini Vikingo who came in out of nowhere and who got after Vikingo. And I'm like, isn't Vikingo mini as it is? How do you have a fun-sized? You know, it's like, I don't know.
Especially because the fun-sized guy was taller.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, but in any case, not that the minis don't have a massive amount of respect in Mexico. I understand the culture there. So I'm not trying to, I'm more just knocking Vikingo than I am the minis. I understand the minis' place in wrestling, so make no mistake about it. But then almost
the real joke is that like you have all these people at ringside in what is the biggest sports entertaining of all sports entertaining like situations going on.
Yeah, and then Ray and JBL are talking about the Aztec Giant not being able to pay his hospital bills, and I was like, hashtag save a referee today. And if you want these wrestlers' medical bills to be paid, there's only one thing you need to do. But almost hits a KO punch, and we get a 630, and Aquaman won with a title 450. Oh my fucking god. Skylar, this is freaking me out, man. These aired on the same night, like at the same time. This is freaking me the fuck out.
So then here's the question: were you counter booking The Undertaker, or was The Undertaker counter booking you?
I have no idea, but apparently we booked the same match to happen on the same night as Vikingo.
By the way, just more proof that in pro wrestling there are only 5 ideas and everybody shares the collective brain cell and just shares it.
Yeah, maybe Eric Bischoff was onto something after all, but but you know what? I went from having like mixed feelings about this match to loving this match, but kind of upset because I also aired this match. So mixed emotions here, coming out of this this predicament. Your thoughts, Skylar?
Again, just to like get out of Sean's reality and back into like the real world.
Back to the real world. Out of my own ego.
Vikingo winning is fun and all, and like him being half the size of Almost and having to jump up and give him a high five was funny. But the thing for me when I'm thinking about this is that like Vikingo is such the pushed guy. He gets so pushed for no real reason other than that he flies and does a lot of hard-hitting looking moves that are actually legitimately dangerous.
Well, and the thing is that I don't think he's taking precautions to make sure that they're done safely. I think he's just doing them. You know, and I don't know. I don't like those kind of wrestlers. And it's why I never liked Roosh. And it's why I never liked Vikingo. And then, remember the time that he tried to do the same flip like 64 times in the same match because he just wouldn't let it go?
And was out for all of last year?
Yeah. And please tell me who missed him. Did you, Skylar? I didn't.
I mean, I was predisposed to hate him anyway, so I'm a bias.
I guess so am I.
I admit it.
I guess so am I. But in any event, then we get the announcement that Triple Mania was going to be a 2-night show, and the first night was going to be in Vegas. And I said, fucking classic. Did you hear, Skylar, how heavily booed that went over in the live crowd there that night?
The thing is that, like, you could have heard a pin drop, and then it was an eruption of boo, fuck you.
Yeah, it was like, wait, really? Yeah, oh no, go fuck yourself. It was, yeah, that was wild. It sounded like it was an uproar. It wasn't like a, oh, that's mean. It was a no, fuck you kind of thing. And you know, and
especially because like the Vegas show is on a Friday, and then the Sunday show it's on a Sunday, so you have a day in between, so you know people can fly back and forth. But also Friday, September 11th.
But TKO will not let this die. He will not let Vegas die. They are going to put every main show that they possibly can. Bound for Glory, Las fucking Vegas. Everybody's going to Vegas. I
get it.
Come
like,
on.
It's closer to the border it's closer to like the border. It makes sense, but like you could have done anything in Texas. You could have done Arizona. You could have done Los Angeles or San Diego. Why fucking Vegas?
TKO, they won't let it go. They will not let it go. They will not just admit that that Vegas is not gonna work. They won't admit it's a failure for wrestling right now. You know, pick somewhere else. Go to El Paso.
Okay. I have a question. I have a question for TKO. Like, are you guys in gambling debt? Is that why you guys have to keep hosting shows in Vegas?
I think UFC is in tremendous amount of debt, and they are siphoning off the money that WWE was making until they lost the faith of the audience by meddling with the booking that they shouldn't be meddling with. As that's my guess as to why they're going back to Vegas so much. Because they're trying to recoup some of these losses because UFC is losing a lot of appeal fast.
And you can let any sort of speculation you want determine why that is. I'm not saying nothing, and Sean's not saying nothing.
Well, because I don't think it's related one way or the other to specifically that. I think that it lost its appeal because they lost their stars, and every star that they ever made over the past 7 or 8 years has gone on to say, yeah, go fuck yourself, Dana White, and go fuck yourself, you know? So it's like...
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing, though, is that WWE got rid of their Vince McMahon, but UFC did not get rid of their Vince McMahon.
Well, and here's the interesting thing about that, too. Dana White's XFL has been halfway successful, where Vince's was not. So it has taken up a lot of Dana's attention, and that has to be hurting the UFC overall. There's no way that isn't hurting the UFC.
The other thing, too, is that like Dana White is also doing his power slap.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by that. That's Dana's XFL. It's the side project that they thought was going to make money. Dana's actually is halfway doing something, and Dana's been focusing on that. Vince didn't even have the time for that. The Power Slap has lasted a lot longer than the XFL did. But Dana's
By
attention
the
being
way,
split cannot help.
Did you see who showed up at Power Slap?
Jack Swagger / Jake
Yeah.
Hager. Yeah. Full-time Capiz. He signed on full-time. Good on you, Jake. And remember he said, didn't he say fuck Tony Khan when he won?
He did.
I think he did. I'm sure he imagined Tony's head as he went to slap the guy. Anyway, in comes the next matchup. It is Psycho Clown and Pagano defending the AAA Tag Team Championships that they've held for 287 days against the placeholder War Raiders. What did you think? I already know what you're going to say. But I'm going to let you say it anyway, Sky. What did you think about this match?
Okay, again, this is not a feeling I have about the workers. It's not even necessarily a feeling I have about the crowd. It's... Tag wrestling is just not it.
It's dead. It's dead. And Vince is the person I blame for killing it. Because he got an entire generation worth of talent to basically not be interested in tag team wrestling. And that's just the byproduct of being the only major game in town for so long. And
yep.
And this was the repercussions of that. This is part of it. Tag team wrestling just doesn't appeal to anyone. I gave up booking it on CIW. I respect that they put it on the show, but even this match, did it even matter that it was the War Raiders? This was an angle between Psycho Clown and Pagano, which I'm not knocking, but you could have inserted any tag team in this position opposite these two clowns, quite literally, I'm not knocking their work, and it would have been the same.
Yeah, the thing I have to say with this is that, like, it's nice that the War Raiders are, getting to be tag team champions in a company where they actually, can have a chance to be, like, the top tag team act, because AAA's tag team division is also not very good.
Because nowhere, it's heard everywhere, and here's the problem. This was a white-hot crowd except for this match. This match turned this crowd dead cold. Like, barely with a pulse.
Now, here's the question, Sean. Did this tag match be placed in this particular spot because it was cooling down the crowd for the main event to get them up again?
I have to imagine so. I have to imagine so. But I don't know. This is just... I feel like they did try. They made this into an angle. Again, I'm not knocking this. Because... Again, this was an angle framed as a match. They needed to get the belts off of Pagano and Psycho Clown because I'm imagining, considering that they mentioned that Psycho Clown is main evented more Triple Manias than anybody, that Pagano and Psycho Clown is going to be a match at Triple Mania. Just a hunch.
Probably. Now, can we get to the War Raiders entrance?
Yes, please do.
Because the War Raiders do their entrance... Eric's helmet was fine. Ivar's helmets had horns that were way too big and were flopping around like goddamn Bambi ears. And they just looked so ridiculous as he's going down to the ring.
Jar Jar Ivar on his way to steal your girl. Yeah, well, they've been through a lot. These two guys have been through a lot. Those guys were in the middle of a bowling ball turkey leg cinematic match where they were all after Braun Strowman. And honestly, those two guys aren't getting any younger, and it shows. That was kind of my big takeaway from this. Is like, yeah, they're cool still, but you could tell they've lost a step because they've been around for so long and they haven't done anything for so long, and it's hard to be wowed by what they do anymore. And
the War Raiders are a main event independent tag team,
which there's nothing wrong with. Which there is absolutely nothing wrong with, and I think I'm glad that they won the titles. All things considered, I'm glad. And they were good heels for what the angle afterwards was. But Patton Oswaldo is so fat and slow, I wrote down. Turnbuckle Tope was cool by Psycho, where he kind of dove through the turnbuckle from one side to another. I thought that was neat. Then the Psycho Clown tags Pagano. Pagano does a dive. Then Psycho Clown does a dive but doesn't tag himself in, but goes for a cover anyway. And Pato and Oswaldo goes for the pin anyway. And this is where, Skylar, I started to see that JBL was the Tony Schiavone of the group, because he said, and I quote, "None of it makes sense, and I love it."
He did say that.
He did say that. And I'm like, I now know why you're here. It's to say deport him at some point because you're JBL, and to Tony Schiavone your way through the rest of the show. And I wouldn't
to be honest, like, JBL was a very necessary because Rey Mysterio was not giving anything.
If this had just been Corey and JBL, I wouldn't have minded it. Because it has its place. You know what I mean? But it's just, with Rey there just flopping over everybody, it didn't help. Then they do the miscue where Pagano clotheslines Psycho Clown, and the War Raiders, also known as the Afterthought, which is their new name, win the tag belts, and, everything moves forward. And this is where I wrote down, Sky, what we said. Tag wrestling is dead. This hot-ass crowd did not care.
Do they even care about the angle itself?
More than they did the matchup. Which, because then the one thing which confused me is they're staring at each other, Pagano's saying his thing, and then Psycho Clown takes off his mask shell to reveal an underneath mask skeleton that looked more fleshy, that's like, I guess registered like, I'm mad now. And, almost reminded me of the worms in Super Mario World when you stomped on their heads, and then they get all mad, and then they start hopping around, then they turn red. And so they just keep talking around. Editor, put one of those in. You know what I'm talking about. So
I don't know. To me, it kind of reminded me of when Sting was in TNA dressed as a Sting fan and hit a person, and then took off his Sting mask to reveal his Sting paint.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in it too. But then, there's, Pagano walks off, and Eric and Ivar then put the boots to Psycho Clown, and Pagano's debating, do I go back to help him? Do I not? And that, after a shoving match, and Pagano walks away and abandons Psycho Clown, and Psycho Clown gets beaten down, and I smell the Triple Mania match already. The only thing I would have asked is, given the fact that Pagano accidentally hits Psycho Clown, shouldn't Psycho Clown have been the one to walk away?
Look, trying to explain booking between...
Does it matter?
Trying to explain AAA booking is weird, okay?
I mean, it's going to work either way for what they're getting across. If they keep telling the stories the way they've been telling them stories on this night, then they'll figure it out. And so I'm not going to... Weirdly, I trust Taker's process now, because there was some semblance of coherency to this. At least some. I just... For my personal bits, I would have been like, wouldn't have been the other way. But you know what? I imagine they have some level of plan. I imagine this is a Triple Mania match. And it was fine for what it's worth. But what tag wrestling worth is one straw penny and not a penny more.
Yeah.
And that's just the sad reality of wrestling as it is.
Hey, but at least, these guys are getting a chance. At least they're getting a chance to do something. Because I was surprised that they were not among the cuts of WWE's roster after WrestleMania, which we never did play that song, did we?
Well, we never actually talked about all the cuts, because we said we were going to, and then we never actually did. You know what, editor, just for fun, throw it in just because we didn't before.
So you've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. And now you gotta go wrestle for Impact. You've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. Damn, and now what?
Pal.
You gotta wrestle for Impact. Impact. And you know that pay gon' be so low.
And now, editor,
Yeah,
I want you to put a really quick list of all the people who were cut like months ago, and just give it a little jazzy tune and do a little scrolling thing.
In the arms of an angel. Okay, never mind.
No, please go on. Please go on. I will totally use that.
Okay, but like, amongst this list of people that were fired, do you have any thoughts or feelings about it other than the fact that they basically destroyed the tag team division?
I say good for the New Day for feeling that they were worth more than a 50% pay cut and telling TKO to go fuck themselves. That's basically it. But
Can't wait to see you in AEW against the Young Bucks.
But I do think, to some degree, I do think that the reason the Viking Raiders, War Raiders experience was not taken is that Undertaker, who has a tremendous amount of political clout right now in the WWE, probably hungry hippoed his favorites and saved them from deletion, So that would be my guess behind that. And thank God that happened for these two who were in the main event, because I love both of these guys, and I'm glad that both of these guys, even if it was in AAA, got a main event that was worth what their potential has always been. You've loved both of these guys. I've loved both of these guys. I'm so happy that both of these guys got this moment. It is Ludwig Kaiser versus Chad Gable, mask versus mask. El Grande Americano versus the original El Grande Americano. This is what we came here for. This is the main event. Skylar, what did you think?
Well, I'm going to be very honest right now. I was not the biggest fan of when they were doing like this promotion of this show. You know how they did the comic book thing, right?
Yes, I did. No, I saw that. I watched all of that and it was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. I mean,
didn't like that they put face versus heel, but I'm like, okay, whatever.
Sign of the times. It's everywhere. It's not just them.
I know, but this was a very well done video package to really highlight a story that started last year that felt like a Vince McMahon Sr. like gimmick. Yeah. El Grande Americano, in very many ways, could have been one of the worst gimmicks in the history of wrestling because it seemed like something Vince McMahon would do. Be like, I'm going to make an American guy a luchador, and he's going to be amazing.
And amazingly, it turned what Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser did to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. I give them a tremendous amount of credit because that gimmick could have been Shorty G level bad, but they found a way to make it work. And I give them a ton of credit for that. It was
not working at the beginning. Like, let's be clear.
Oh, it wasn't. No, it was not.
Nobody liked it.
It was like, I wanted to see it through, but nobody was like, this is not. Everyone was like, why are we doing this to Chad Gable again? Why do this again? But the flip side of what it was turned into, I mean, when you see how this match went down and how much effort was put into it and how much story was put into it and the payoffs that were built from months and months and months of all of it, this is the kind of moment that makes it all worth it. When it comes to these guys, and it's very hard to name other gimmicks that turned into this kind of phenomenon. The way that El Grande Americano has.
To speak regionally about it, like, I can't remember the last Mexican gimmick that happened like that. I'm sure we could find examples. Like speaking of the New Day, that was a gimmick that was DOA, and they were able to turn it around into something that worked. But I mean, that took major revisions and other things. And this kind of feels the same way, especially the work that Kaiser did. Because you're asking a lot of a German to do something, to go to Mexico to pretend to be an American and make it work, and yet he did.
Well, Kaiser has been through a lot lately. And it has only made him more endearing to the babyface crowd in Mexico. And the way that he has turned that, and again, he, like you said, he was thrust into that position without a choice and just made gold out of it, to the point where when Gable came back, they had an ingrained feud that was built in, and then they just added fuel to the fire over and over and over again. And it's just, this felt like an old school wrestling feud with modern day application. It, was it overbooked? Yes. Was it going to be? Yes. Did the story call for it? Yes. But TKO is...
Here's the thing, is that, like, this is a rivalry of a feud of the year that matches, like, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Because that was the last visceral feud that felt like two guys who legitimately hated each other and allowed to prosper. And then again, circumstances happen with that feud, too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And the fact that this, I'm glad that, the fact that so many people have been saying, like, this is the only feud worth watching around the world right now. And there is a reason why for that. And I think they laid it out really well. And the way they told the story in the ring was basically laid out all of that. But TKO is still going to TKO. We got the fans around the world cheering. But I will say this was far less ad heavy than the typical fodder that we are given from WWE. Or at least they called less attention to it. As sometimes Corey, they would have like the deco below him have like, this show is brought to you by Snickers. As this is no, go away, CC cleaner. As anyway, I'm sorry that yes, trying to
CC cleaner.
He's trying to wipe the memory of all of this taking place, as for some reason they don't want us to know that there's good wrestling happening outside of WWE, although it's inside of TKO. Maybe it's John Laurinaitis who's just the victim all the time for everybody, but in any case, before the match starts, Scott, Rey Mysterio's music hit. There's a pop. Then there's more Rey Mysterio music. Then there's more Rey Mysterio music. Then there's more Rey Mysterio music. And then the entire crowd pulls out their phones and starts scrolling Facebook and TikTok. And then Rey Mysterio comes out.
Wasn't he also like supposed to be on commentary? Like, why did he go to the back?
I
to come out to the front
don't
to the
get that at all. I felt the same thing, because couldn't he have just gotten into the ring? Because the whole point he was there was to be in the middle of the ring for the in-ring introductions, to say, this is your main event, this is mask versus mask, blah, 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 to do all the pomp and circumstance of that. But couldn't they have played the music and he just got up from the table? Did he have to run all the way around the arena and then take like 2.5 minutes again to get out there? Like, why was that necessary? You know how many knee surgeries Rey Mysterio has had?
It reminded me of a Chikara gimmick. Remember that company was around?
Yeah.
Of a wrestler who announced himself and then did his own entrance while announcing himself.
Yeah. Well, I just felt bad for Rey because...
It was that level of ridiculous, and Rey was just... This was not necessary in more ways than one, to be honest.
No, and it killed the pop that Rey had, because when he finally came out, they're like, oh yay. Hey. And Rey came out...
Is Rey over Mexico? Like, is he actually over, or is he not really, like...
Well, nobody can deny that Rey is one of the most influential luchadors of all time. There's no disputing that at this point. Maybe one of maybe the best and maybe the biggest luchador in the world. El Santo, definitely the legend of Mexico for his time. But as far as like a global phenomenon, Rey Mysterio is that dude. But the people have seen a lot of Rey Mysterio. And I think that's
and I also
part
feel
of it.
Like he never wrestled in AAA, and he never yes, he spent time in Mexico, but he didn't make himself a name in Mexico. He made himself a name around the world, which is why I asked that question.
Well, again, he had his moments there, but I think the crowd was ready for the match ahead. They're not ready for Rey Mysterio to just stand there and then go back to the booth. The crowd wasn't there for Rey. You know what I mean? It's like, it would be different if he were wrestling and this was something. I think that would have elicited a different reaction. If they also didn't have to wait 90 plus seconds for him to hobble over because Rey's had how many knee surgeries? And they're making him run across the arena. Yeah. He's had like 6 different knees. They should have just given him the 6-leg thing that Darth Maul had. And that would have made it so much easier for Rey. But in any case, he comes back to the booth. JBO wishing Mysterio left commentary for good makes all of us.
Yeah.
But I will say, Gable doing gracias like he used to say thank you in Vince McMahon WWE is prime heel material. And I love that we had both a heel mariachi band and a babyface mariachi band on this night. I don't know why that made me laugh so much. And Gable comes out.
Well, here's the thing is that the heel mariachi band didn't have any mask on.
No.
Which I think was very important because then Ludwig Kaiser comes out with a mariachi band with masks on.
Yes, and Gable's group, they were all wearing black. They all had maskless, and then Gable comes out like Mariachi Goldberg. And then they start chanting like he's Goldberg, including the knock on the door and the opening up and the 6 guys walking with him. I'm like, oh, this is a giant rib. This is one giant rib just to kick Goldberg when he's down. And I am so here for it.
The rib is on Goldberg himself.
It had to have been. Because this got a Goldberg level pop from the crowd. It was funny. It was so funny. And then,
because no offense to Gable, but he's like half the size of Goldberg.
Yeah, but it was great. And then, they finished the song and Goldberg, and then Gable comes down. Gableberg comes down as El Grande Gableberg comes down. As I will now be referring to him as then that planted kid again screaming in the face of Gableberg. Here's
the thing is that, Con, you're saying it's a planted kid, but to be honest, that kid was so enthusiastic. I think it may just be like the Bailey Buddy girl Izzy from NXT all those years ago. I think it's a legitimate fan / kid.
Well, it added so much. He added so much to the vibe of the show. I good on that kid. I hope he gets his moment one day.
Also, Gable dance in the middle of the ring while he's doing the grass.
I love this crab walk. His Dr. Zoidberg All-American crab walk was fantastic. I thought that was great.
It was so dumb.
And then here comes the masked babyface all-in-white mariachi band for Kaiser. And this is where the audio guy was having himself a night because whoever was singing the song they did to start, his mouth was eating the microphone and it was redlining the fuck out of the audio. It was like this poor production guy. But the crowd was molten for that song. And I loved when Kaiser came out and he lost his hat and one of the mariachi just puts it back on his head and then he just tilts it like Clint Eastwood and I was like, that is a boss right there.
It's one of those things where he lost aura and got aura in the exact same moment.
Yeah. And so they talk about, it was tremendous and good on that mariachi guy for just putting it back on his head. And just adding to the moment right there because that could have just been a disastrous moment that we would have been laughing out for, knocking at reasons. But instead, it was great. It added even more to Kaiser's whole feeling.
Every man gimmick, he fights for you.
Yeah. It was just it had old school energy. And the crowd was just the crowd made this match. Make no mistake about it. Without the crowd, this match would have been good, very good still, but the crowd made it. And then, guess what, Slapnuts? Guitar Shot starts this match off.
I wonder how many people Taker was trying to like overshadow with this match and the way it was booked, because we got Goldberg entrance, we got a slap nuts Jeff Jarrett guitar shot.
If you recall, Skylar, Jeff Jarrett was in AAA for a while when they were doing that cross-promotion thing in, 2013? You know, or 2012 or 2013 when Jarrett came back, and it wasn't Immortal, but it was like the knockoff Immortal, not Aces and Eights, but it was like the second tier after that. Anyway.
Yeah, he did that thing where he became the Mexican heavyweight champion.
yeah. So Chip, there is some history there, but the crowd was just crazy for this. It was no disqualification, but the story calls for it.
And also, good on the guitar. Like, that was a great guitar shot with the powder and everything, too.
It was. It definitely set the tone right out of the gate. And then it was on.
The only thing I was a little bit angry about was, like, Rey Mysterio comes in there and does the thing of, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But doesn't, like, do anything. Like, yeah. I know it wouldn't have happened, but Chad Gable also should have hit Rey, too.
Yeah, if it would have made me feel better, because then it might have allowed this two-man commentary booth to continue unabated, but unfortunately, Rey got back to the booth. Kaiser gets a corner suplex. Gable gets posted. There's a Death Valley driver on the outside by Kaiser. Then they get the stairs, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the angle they did it, but something for me just did not work on that inverted angle slam off the steps.
Was it not helpful that they did a stair spot earlier in the show?
Well, I didn't think it was a different stair spot, so I didn't think it was as offensive. And considering that there was going to be a much different stair spot coming up with those stairs, that was pretty intense. I will allow it. But I just think it was maybe the angle that they did it, or the fact that Gable just like fell off the steps afterwards. Something didn't work. Good idea in theory, execution, in my opinion.
Right.
Then Gable rips the mask, and the crowd's in an uproar because we gotta make sure that everybody knows that juice is happening in this match, which I'm glad it did.
Well, also because like this is where the tradition of like Mexican wrestling really gets into it, and again, why Gable and Kaiser are so good. If you rip a mask of a luchador, that is one of the ultimate signs of disrespect. It's basically next to like spitting on a guy or doing like a low blow. It is the biggest thing that you can do to get heat. And Gable was so good in this match, getting all the heat.
Oh, he was tremendous. I mean, he was a heat magnet. And the crowd, I mean, they were... I have not heard the chants of yay for whenever Kaiser struck and the boo for whenever Gable did anything. We have not heard that in a while. You know, so it was really refreshing to do that. And then we get a white noise through the table. And at this point, I was glad that we only got "This is Lucha" chants and we don't get chants for tables. We don't get "We want tables" in AAA, even though we got some.
Well, here's the thing: is the "This is Lucha" chant also the Mexican version of
"This is wrestling"?
I guess "This is awesome."
It's "This is wrestling," which Corey alluded to. He said it. He's like, it's the biggest chant in wrestling of "This is wrestling." I'm like, yeah. Thanks for being. I'm glad that our fans are very self-referential about it. As just to make sure that we're clearly identifying the sport in which we're partaking in. But I'm glad it was only "This is Lucha" chants and nothing more. I'll take that. And then Ray said something that just made me laugh. He said, Ray goes, "You lose your mask, there's no going back. Says the man who successfully lost his mask and went back."
Wait, did he actually say that?
Yeah, he did. Well, he didn't say "says the man who's he said, quote, "You lose your mask, there's no going back," end quote. Says the man who lost his mask and went back more successfully than any other wrestler in history. Maybe the only one to do it successfully.
Yeah, but Sean, who watched 2000 WCW anyways?
Enough for it to get on the internet.
Listen, okay? Like,
it's not supposed to matter for lucha culture, is all I'm saying.
That's what Vince McMahon always taught us.
Well, And I'm glad that he was correct in that regard, because I could not imagine Ray without his mask in the 2000s. He would not have gotten over in WWE without it, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was the thing that made him different.
And it's also the thing that sold, unfathomable amounts of merchandise to this day. So, but anyway, Gable uses a table piece for a clothesline. I thought that was creative. Then he just yeets the office chair like he's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, stealing that from the Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman spots.
Yep. And then Kaiser starts bleeding, and Gable's on him, and then we get a Hulk up from Kaiser. And the match wasn't even halfway done at that point.
Wrestle like Hulk Hogan several times in this match, which was funny to me. I don't know why.
That. But it worked. It worked. If you could get away with it, why not do it? But then we get the Lucha hand rope shit blockbuster, which I thought was cool. They're blending Lucha tradition and respecting Lucha culture while having neither of them been ingrained in it from their beginnings in wrestling. And I think that's really special to show that kind of respect toward an art form and toward a craft like that, and to do it justice in that way.
Yeah, and they also found their own way to put stamps on things. Like Ludwig Kaiser does like a pop-up, and then Gable just slaps him in the face and he goes back down, and I got a big laugh from that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And as Kaiser is ripping Gable's mask, Rey Mysterio is in a fucking coma. He cannot register excitement on this commentary at all. He feels so deadpan. Like he's there like he has to be strapped to the chair. And
Corey and JBL are trying to pump energy into this. And to both for their credits, they're doing it. And every time Ray talks, the energy goes back down.
And I think that's why I didn't even mind JBL Shivaniing the entire night, because he was just trying to balance it out. He was just trying, I genuinely felt bad for both Corey and JBL, because it's like, I've never seen two guys carrying a weight the way that it was like the three-legged race, where they tied the two guys' legs together and they have to try and figure out how they walk together.
You're right, it is.
But they added a ball and chain to the combined tied leg, and that was Rey Mysterio. And they both had to walk with three legs and carry this ball and chain.
Well, hold on. Would you say they had to walk with three knees?
Maybe. That's not even nearly as many surgeries as Ray's had on his.
I've had surgery 5 times in my right knee.
Editor, if you can find that clip, play it here.
I've had surgery 5 times in my left knee.
Oh, Sky, that was such a deep cut.
Whenever I used to watch WWE and they were doing the "don't try this at home" stuff, that always came up, and it's just the way he says it.
Oh, Sky, that popped me so hard. That's funny as fuck. Oh, man. Well done. Well done, sir. I knew the second you said it, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Oh, man, that was good. That was really good. Oh, God, where was I? Then we get that drop kick to the head to the stairs. That was also quite intense. And then we get the chair fight, and then the Creed brothers are on the take.
Wait, hold on. That's not the Creed brothers. That's just guys who look like the Creed brothers.
I bet. With masks. I forgot what they actually called them. Hermano? I'm like, what is this? Arrested Development?
Bruno and Julio?
Yes.
Which is just...
Yes.
Ugh.
And it just reminded me, because Corey Graves kept saying Hermano, and it just kept reminding me of season 1 of Arrested Development. And I don't know whether you saw that show where they're trying to get over the affection of what's her face's love, who is also a Latina woman, and so anyway, Marta. Anyway.
Stop it, Sean. You're reaching into the shows of the mid 2010s I always watched.
But we will see Marta later on. She'll show up later as
Oh.
But in any case, Then we get a metal headbutt after a Uragi through the table, and that was a
This is
2
why I
count.
like doing the show with you and not Joshua, because at least you reference things I know, and I reference things you know, and not fucking Joshua who references things that nobody knows.
Yeah, we don't have just like that puppy dog, like, huh? Like every time we mention something, or just I don't know what that is. And I don't care to, so let's just move on. Well, shuffles newspaper. But anyway, as yes. I love envisioning Joshua as just like that stern 70s dad who just like angrily shuffles his newspaper as just mad that his kids are trying to get his attention. But in any case, anyway, the other Americanos show up and fight off the Creeds. And then we get the Bravo Americano does a dive, and we get an Ay Dios Mio from Corey. And then JBL, with the line of the night, says, well, let the bodies hit the floor. JBL quoting Drowning Pool after a dive off the stage was not on my 2026 bingo card. But I'm here for it. Oh man, this is what I feel like JBL was having more fun on commentary than he ever did on commentary on main roster WWE.
Well, the thing is that like JBL gets the freedom to do stuff because like this is not having to deal with Vince McMahon in his ear. He gets to actually have fun with it. But the fact that he referenced a song from 25 years ago.
Oh, that was gold. And the fact that a JBL and Drowning Pool were not two worlds that I ever expected to collide into, especially not in Mexico. So I was really thrown for a loop here as and then Gable goes over and goes after that blind comedian that he apparently hit an ankle lock on a couple weeks earlier. And then the blind comedian gets his walking stick and whips Gable with it. And Gable runs away, and after Gable ran away, you could just see in the background, this dude is still hucking this cane, just going after anything. He just like 4 or 5 more slaps into the air before he finally realizes he's gone. It's just, oh man, the visual of that.
Nobody told him like to stop using the cane.
No, that wasn't, but you know what? At least you know that he's not gimmick blind. And I think that helped the story. That cracked me up, man. That was good. Good on that could be. I want to hear that guy's comedy now. And then we get
it's in Spanish, so you know.
Well, true. Well, then we get a blast from the fucking past as Pimpin' Yella doubles up the slap nuts. As yes.
I just like Jeff Jarrett is angrily hitting his TV with a guitar.
This is sassy Jeff Jarrett. This is Adrian Adonis Jeff Jarrett.
Now, the one thing I will say, if I have to criticize anything about this match, is that they use so many goddamn false finishes in this match, and I felt like this was the first one of it could have been over right here, and you didn't have to do anything else.
Well, yeah.
I know they were going to do more, but like they didn't have to do all the false finishes they did in the last like 10 minutes of this match.
True, but they also had, similarly to what I was saying about Phoenix and Laredo Kid, they at least had context for why those false finishes were occurring. You know, it almost reminded me more of like it was so overbooked, not too dissimilarly to what Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 40 was, and I think that was kind of the vibe they were trying to go with this. And so I gave it a pass on the night. But then we got a low blow, message sent.
Well, hold on. Before that, we get the bull rope, and I have a question, Sean.
Yes.
Do you think JBL and Rey Mysterio were having second thoughts when the bull rope came out?
Well, Rey Mysterio, I think, kind of exposed himself because he said, like, I've never been hit with a bull rope, but it looks like it hurts. And I was like, really? Of all the stuff that you went through, never hit with a bull rope from Tech, I guess he's from San Diego, but what you would have thought with all that Mexican wrestling, but no. And And JBL, I mean,
yeah, and here's the thing. That's bullshit because he did compete in a bull rope match on a SmackDown in 2003 against Johnny Stambolini.
Johnny Stamboli. Yeah, boy, what a time that was. Well, and as for
again,
JBL,
Rey Mysterio, fuck you.
well, and as for JBL, I mean, again, you know, that this bull rope, it reminded me more of, you know, Lucha Underground, because they always go with that small bull rope in Lucha Underground. They even mentioned Tejano, who was on Lucha Underground, and was known for that whole deal, and you know, Gable does the bull rope, and he goes for a stomp. Then Kaiser's fired wife arrives for the save.
Old fired girlfriend. I don't think that's his wife.
Well, for now. I mean, you know, just
for now.
But then JBL mentions don't find her in an elevator. I'm like, oh god. It's like, we're really gonna bring that up now? Like, this is the time we're gonna address this? But then Gable.
I just love the fact that like she shows up and she has the spotlight on her. Like, can you not make it any more obvious?
Yes, playing the role of Karen Jarrett here tonight. we and then you know, Gable's like, what are you doing here? She's like, I bought a ticket. Then we get a chair DDT, which was sold amazingly.
Also, I wish Chad Gable to get the ultimate nuclear heat would have just slapped her.
Yeah, but I feel like he already like manipulated her. If anything, she would have had to have just slapped him, and then that would have been that. Because like he'd already.
I mean, it would have been nice. Look, if we're gonna have the family, friends, or whoever of these wrestlers at the ringside, at least have them interact physically. Like, get a slap in.
Well, I think the idea that was, you know, enough of a distraction because that Gable had already had consternation with her, which is why he got her fired in order to have the match. So, like, there was already some level of that. So just her being there at all was the provocation. I think at least what I'm trying to Bruce Pritchard my way into Undertaker's booking here. But that would be the way that I would imagine it goes. But then we get the 1-2 on the knees, which was great, you know, at this point.
We get a beautiful false finish when Ludwig Kaiser does a really, really, really nice version of what's Bray Wyatt's finisher? Sister Abigail on a chair.
Yep. Yeah, which was sold amazingly.
And it should have been the finish, let's be honest.
Well, but again, there was more to this though. I mean, they do the chair to the stairs, you know, leg, you know, but here's where I gotta say, this is where Kaiser went from, I really like this dude, to this guy might be my favorite wrestler, not wrestling in the United States at this moment. Because we get this ankle lock. And from this point on, there is nothing that Kaiser did that did not involve selling that leg for the rest of the night, including the post-match. And that is a level of dedication to craft I give him an insane amount of credit for. Because he gets this ankle lock, and then the ankle lock with the grapevine. Kaiser rallies with a back suplex where Gable flips all the way over and lands on his stomach. Then Kaiser's going to go to rally, but his ankle gives away. Chaos Theory, 2 count. You know, and
the Chaos Theory is still his best move.
Yep, agreed. And then, you know, it was getting to the head, and you could tell the crowd, you know, they were feeling it. They knew the end was coming. They're kind of helping each other stay up. There's a lot of blood. And then Kaiser runs the ropes 3 times and hits a gigantic headbutt to the OG, the cover, and it was over. And the crowd went crazy. And this was spectacular. The pacing of this match was so much better than anything on the main roster has done in so long. And I gotta admit, cringe or otherwise in what he was trying to do in spite of Rey Mysterio, Corey Graves is hitting his stride as a play-by-play announcer. Give him a few more years, and he will be in a place that we're going to really be respecting his ability in this regard.
And he can replace Michael Cole, please. Please.
I'm more confident that that's going to be worth doing now than ever before. Because Corey, I think now is capable of it more than ever before.
And again, I just don't want to listen to Corey Graves anymore. I'm sorry, not Corey Graves. I don't want to listen to Cole. Freaking Michael Cole.
Yeah.
He just sucks.
But this was spectacular. I mean, it had the chaos factor, but it was overbooked, yes, but the crowd had it. The crowd kept it going, and these two, I mean, what a performance. And you know, I still think that Punk and Roman was still match of the year, but this at the very least has got to be talked about when we get to the Grapplies on Christmas night. Well done, Ludwig Kaiser and Chad Gable, the Americanos, for a tremendous main event.
This is definitely the second match that deserves the match of the year contender status. And again, this is going to be nominated for Feud of the Year as well, because both of these guys put in a heck of a lot of work to make this something special.
Yeah, and the ring was covered in blood, and we saw it when Gable unveiled his mask, and he just kept bleeding. Do
you think he bled a little too far?
I don't know what happened for him, because it looked like he went to blade, but he bladed himself in like 3 places on his head. You know, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I was just looking at it differently, but he was gushing. But boy, the crowd showed him a lot of respect after that matchup too, which I thought was really cool. But it did make me laugh when Gable's daughter, you know, he like high-fived his daughter, and Gable looked down at her hand as like at her dad's blood. And she's like, ew. And that made me laugh. But
although I did kind of find it funny, like, hey, what's this random white family doing in this ring? Are they related to one of the people? Oh my God, it's Chad Gable. They're like, oh God.
Well, because I think, and I could be wrong about this, and somebody please fill me in if I am wrong, I believe that in mask versus match situations, that was tradition, was to introduce who you are and who your family was, and it was the disgrace of a wrestler was having your identity be revealed, but then you actually reveal that identity. And in this circumstance, because the match was so good and in 2026 modern times, that I think got more respect than it would have in previous generations of Lucha. But I liked it. I mean, again, you know, this is where I kind of moved things along a little bit, but at the same time, it didn't lose the emotion behind it. And I think there was a respect between, you know, Americano and Gable that they showed at the end. And I just thought all of this was very well done, you know, and I
will say JBL's attempted to sell him. Oh my God, it's Chad Gable. Like, yeah, come on, JBL.
Well, but you know, that was the surprise, you know, somebody had to do that because that's been the half of the joke of this whole gimmick from the start. So,
which, by the way, I found it even funnier when they went to Clash in Italy, and I think it was Wade Barrett said, "So I watched AAA and I realized, oh my God, it was Chad Gable as Ogani Mercado. Sorry, Michael Cole."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, my bad." but in any case, let's get to the overall ratings of the show. Skylar, your thoughts top to bottom on our first Court-Martail podcast check-in here regarding AAA.
And again, this is very important to note that this wasn't even a pay-per-view for AAA. This was a version of their Saturday night's main event, which was a AAA night show. And this is the coolest thing about this show is that it's still airing in parts of Mexico because Mexico has a weird television thing. And this episode hasn't even aired all the way in Mexico yet, which is crazy to think about, right?
Absolutely. You know,
Mexico feels like one of the last places that kind of feels in a way like the territory because not everything is going to be seen right away. TV's going to bicycle around. Now, obviously, this match being on YouTube kind of helped with that. And
definitely
that's kind of like
move things
what
around.
Helped with this show is that it's accessible. I can skip the ads if I don't want to watch the ads. I can watch the show in the speed I want to, which, Sean, did you watch it at 1 speed or 1.5?
Well, I told you at the start of this, I watched it just straight-laced. I start to finish. I told you that at the beginning, Sky. I watched it in its pure vanilla form, 1 speed. And
it's the commercials, which again we will skip the commercials.
Which I just moved past because, you know, it's just merch plug. But it wasn't the, oh my God, I cannot escape these ads the way that it is with main roster WWE.
Right. Now I will say, Rey Mysterio does bring this down a full point. If he was not on commentary,
I feel
if
you.
it was just JBL and Corey Graves, I would be giving this show a lot higher of a grade than I am actually going to give it, which is still a high grade of a 7 out of 10. But if Rey was not on this commentary table, this would have been an 8. Unfortunately, I just can't get into the tag match for obvious reason. It was more angle than match. And the first 2 matches, while great, the first match was great. The second match was okay, but I'm not a big fan of Vikingo because he's Mexican Kenny Omega, which that should tell you a lot already. But this main event match, it was worth the visit, and I'm glad we got the chance to watch it.
Yeah, I agree. What did you say your rating was on the show? I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed the number.
Again, I give it a 7 out of 10.
7,
it would
okay.
have been an 8, but Rey Mysterio just brings it down by a full point.
I feel you. Now, it's interesting for me because I'm going to keep the point that you knocked off for Rey, and I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 because I did not expect to be so entertained by the whole show. You know, there was little bits and pieces to take away from everything, which is great. You know, even though I don't like Vikingo personally, I didn't really care for the overall format of that show, knowing now that it's like a roided up TV main event kind of atmosphere that this whole show was. It makes more sense why that match was booked the way it was. I just lament the painful death of tag team wrestling, but it's not like where WWE, where we're just like the matches are fine and what they are. I mean, like, I enjoyed the matches for what they were, and I'm not here leaving with a massive amount of critique about the format other than Rey Mysterio should never be on commentary ever again. That's really I think the 2 points that I'm taking off, at least one of the 2 points I'm taking off is Rey alone. But this was fun. Not enough for me to watch this show on the regular, but enough for me to go, if there's another show that gets some buzz, I might pay attention to it. And not for nothing, Sky, this show has 1.8 million views on YouTube right now. So it's getting a lot of attention. And good for AAA. I hope it actually does them some good. And let's see what you got, Undertaker. Let's see what you're able to continue with. You know, and let's hope that TKO doesn't stick their dicks into your ear the way that they did with main roster WWE that has soured us so badly on the overall vibes of the show. But next time, Sky, we might be doing a very special version of trivia. Or we might be doing something else. But do you want to say anything about Clash in Italy before we wrap this up?
Clash in Italy was a good show. I didn't really care for the Jade Cargill match, even though it was a Jade Cargill match, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, Brock Lesnar, for retiring and then getting a victory that you didn't need. 6 out of 10.
Okay, I find that fair enough. I think it's just my only sadness is that, why take off the boots if you're just going to do it 3 weeks later? Can't we sell anything for longer than a hot cup of coffee anymore? That's my only issue.
Coffee's not hot. It is long cold.
I know, but can't we, pop it in the microwave and just let it sit for a minute? I don't know. See, this is what main roster WWE does to me. I didn't even watch the show. I heard Skylar give the spark notes-iest spark notes that has ever spark notes, and it still gives me agita. This is why we're going elsewhere. So we're going to go elsewhere. We're going to do other things. We're going to have a very unique trivia coming up, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, Skylar, as always, thank you very much for joining me here on the Court-Martail podcast. It's always a joy to review with you.
Thank you for having me.
And we will see you, ladies and gentlemen, right after the commercial break, which starts right now.